Well, a few years ago, the New York Times published a front-page story called "Portrait of Religion in United States Holds Dozens of Surprises." And the first three sentences of this front-page article in the New York Times listed what the religion writer for the Times considered surprises. He wrote, "The state with the highest proportion of atheists is," anyone want to guess? The state with the highest proportion of atheists? Oregon. Most Americans of Irish ancestry are Protestant. Unitarians are more likely to be divorced than are members of other religious groups. Well, this last sentence caught my attention. Later in the article, it said, "The likelihood of being divorced is generally uniform across all religious groups. Roman Catholics, with 7.5% currently divorced, are only slightly lower than other mainstream Protestants and Jews, with 8.7% divorce. The Greek Orthodox have the lowest level of divorce, 4.4%, and the Unitarians the highest. 18% of us have been divorced." Well, why? Why do we have more divorced people in our churches? I don't think it's because we encourage divorce, especially when children are involved. I am not a supporter of divorce as a simple solution in marital conflict. I believe that when we are parents, we have a duty to try to stay together. We share responsibility for the children that we have brought into the world. At their best, I hope Unitarian Universalist churches serve as a support system to encourage parents to stay together and work out their differences. Still, I would never suggest that every couple should stay in a relationship. I would not even suggest that every couple with children should stay married. Although Unitarian Universalist churches serve as a support system for families, we also affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Unlike some religious communities, we do not stigmatize persons who have gone through a divorce. This affirmation of worth, of dignity, may explain why, compared to other churches, twice as many divorced persons attend our congregations. I have a friend, he lives in another state, and years ago I attended his wedding. About 10 years later, his wife left him. I asked my friend if he were to come to church to hear a sermon on divorce, what would be most helpful? And he said, "I would find it most helpful to hear you talk about forgiving my ex-wife. I can get on with my life, I can move forward only so far as I can forgive her for leaving me. To the degree that I cannot forgive," he said, "I remain stuck." Well, forgiveness is popular among Christians. In the late 1940s, the Unitarian Universalist theologian James Luther Adams was teaching ministerial students in Chicago, and he made the students an offer in his preaching class. Any student who would listen to the most popular religious broadcast of that time on the radio, the Lutheran Hour, and find a sermon on that broadcast that did not solve human problems with God's forgiveness would win $10. It was a good deal of money in the 1940s, the equivalent of more than $100 today. But no one ever collected. The phrase, God's forgiveness, was used every Sunday. As this story shows, forgiveness is a common word in traditional Christian sermons. For many people, the word has been used so much, so often, that it's lost its meaning. The Reverend Tony Larson was minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church in Racine, Wisconsin. Before he was ordained a Unitarian Universalist minister, Tony studied to be a Catholic priest. But he switched to Unitarian Universalism when we said we respect the dignity of everyone, including gay persons. Tony said about the word forgiveness, all my life I have been told that you should always forgive people. When I was in a fight or an argument, my parents or my teachers always told me to shake hands and make up. Never hold a grudge. So I always tried to do it. Whenever I felt wrong and I became angry, I would push those angry feelings away and say to myself, I hold no grudge. But you know, saying you hold no grudge doesn't mean it's true. You could say anything you want to yourself or to other people. But saying it doesn't make it so. I think we do a disservice to adults, Tony said, when we tell them they should forgive people who have abused them. The minister who tells a battered woman that she should forgive her husband and take him back no matter how much he beats her because marriage is forever and good Christians always forgive is wrong. And a Unitarian Universalist layperson made the same point. He said, Roger, preaching that people ought to forgive may do more harm than good. For many people, especially victims of abuse, saying that they should forgive trivializes the real hurts suffered and makes personal growth more difficult. And so another person said, teaching forgiveness is hogwash. You will turn everyone into benign, benevolent zombies. They will all be too blissed out to function in the real world, where you need a good, strong suit of armor to make sure you do not get eaten alive. Well, when a word is overused, as the word forgiveness has been overused, it sometimes helps to use a different word. So I want to take a step back away from the word forgiveness, and I want to suggest for a moment that we don't worry about forgiveness. Instead, I want to talk about understanding. Understanding. I suggest that the better we understand others with whom we are deeply upset, the better we can heal the pain inside us. The better we can wrap up our unfinished business and put it behind us. It helps to try to understand others and our relationship with them, not as a favor to them, but so that we can let go of the past and get on with our lives. How do we understand others who have hurt us? Well, we can look on it as a research project. We can investigate the history and the patterns in both our families. We can explore our memories of the relationship to try to understand what happened. We can read books about human behavior that might help us gain insight into others. We can talk to friends and relatives who knew us both, or talk to people in the church who knew us both and ask, what were your impressions of our relationship? What do you think was going on? If drugs or alcohol were a problem in the relationship, we can learn from attending a group like Alcoholics Anonymous or Al-Anon. We can weigh and we can shift through all this information that we gather in our research, and we try to make sense of it. In my own life, I've discovered that I can understand others only as far as I can understand myself. If I work hard at it, the attempt to understand someone who I'm angry with or disappointed with, it becomes an attempt to understand the mixed up thoughts and feelings inside me. I breathe deeply, and I let my feelings of anger and fear come to the surface. I discuss those feelings with people I trust. I explore where those feelings come from in my own history. I look again at my relationship with my parents, with my brother, with my two sisters, with my friends, with my teachers. The better I can understand myself, understand the source of my feelings and my motivations, the better I can understand others. As we learn about what is going on inside us, we are better able to use our imagination to put ourselves inside others and try to experience the world the way they experience it. And with this understanding, we are less likely to repeat the same patterns in a new relationship. If we work on self-understanding and if it leads to better understanding of others, perhaps somewhere down the line we can write a letter or say face-to-face to the person we're upset with, I know you did the best you could. If you could have done better, you would have. And this statement, I know you did the best you could, this is a healthy form of forgiveness. Now, in calling this forgiveness, I am defining forgiveness differently than people often define it. To explain how I'm using the word, it helps to say what forgiveness is not. Forgiveness is not forgetting. Past events and the pain the events caused have a great deal to teach us so that we do not repeat the same pattern in the future. Forgiveness is not forgetting. Forgiveness is not approving. By trying to understand others, we are not saying that their actions were acceptable. True understanding cannot occur when we are in any way denying or minimizing or justifying or accepting the actions that harmed us. Forgiveness is not approving. Forgiveness is not absolution. You're not absolving people for what they've done. When we try to understand others, they are still responsible for their actions. Forgiveness is not absolving. Forgiveness is not a form of self-sacrifice. In trying to understand others and what happened in the relationship, we don't swallow our feelings. We try to get in touch with our feelings and to learn from them. Forgiveness is not self-sacrifice. So when I say forgiveness, I do not mean forgetting or approving or absolving or self-sacrifice. I mean understanding. Understanding. I think about my friend and his divorce. Imagine saying to a man or a woman with whom you once lived and loved and now have separated from, I know you did the best you could. If you could have done better, you would have. Being able to say this without the words sticking in your throat is forgiveness. Now, you may be thinking, I have studied the people who have hurt me. They definitely did not do the best they could. I know they could have done better. And I've had these thoughts myself more than once. When someone hurts me, I go through a process of grief. I have expected this person to be different from who they turned out to be. I imagine that they would see the world much as I see the world. I expected that they would be reliable, reasonable, and trustworthy. When I say they did not do the best they could, I am really saying I refuse to let go of my expectations. Forgiveness is the act of understanding myself and others well enough that I can let go of my unrealistic expectations. This is a goal worth working towards. A goal of understanding others so well that we can grieve the loss of our own expectations. After we've gotten in touch with our grief about our expectations, we might be able to say, I know you did the best you could. If you could have done better, you would have. Well, what do we gain when we reach this point? We gain the ability to move into a new relationship with someone else, having learned from the past and no longer carrying the baggage of the previous relationship. We can risk love and intimacy again, perhaps with expectations that are more realistic. As a group, Unitarian Universalists are more likely to have experienced a divorce than are members of other religious groups. In my experience, this is not because we are more likely than other people to mess up our marriages. It is because we do a better job in treating divorced people with the value and the worth and the dignity that they deserve. Divorced people come here because for them it is a safe, non-judgmental community. I'm a strong believer in marriage. Nevertheless, if you have gone through a divorce, know that here we will treat you with the same respect with which we treat everyone else. We work hard to maintain this church as a support system for marriages, but if your relationship ends in separation, here we will not make you feel guilty. Our effort is to respect the dignity of everyone, whatever their marital status. It's something we can take pride in as a religious community. In the same spirit, may each of us forgive. May each of us let go of our unrealistic expectations of others and move forward with our lives free from past feelings of anger and disappointment. Others make mistakes, and they hurt us. However, each of us is trying to do the best we can with what we know. And knowing this, may we forgive others, put the past behind us, and move on with our lives. Let's sing.